Thank you so much, Tony. Yes, and thank you again for recording that. I almost forgot. Okay, all right. We're going to go right into the program immediately by calling on the convener of the program, which is Pastor GJ. Would like to invite you to please give the convener speech.
Thank you so much, Sister Tosin. Thank you, Bro Tony. Our appreciation to our guest of honor today. We appreciate you, Daddy and Mommy Olatuboson. Daddy Olatuboson and Mommy Olatuboson are my mentors in the city, and we are very, very proud of you, Daddy and Mommy. Thank you for all that you do for those of us at this stage. And Sister Faye, if it's okay for me to call you, do I call you Sister Faye or Grandma Faye? We are glad to have you here today. The question that gave birth to this meeting stemmed from the fact that I have mentors who are like 30 years older than me. I have friends. I'm a lover of the elderly because I kind of monitor their life. I kind of walk with them because I'm learning wisdom from them. And for the so many elderly that the Lord has surrounded me with, I ask questions like, what are your regrets in life? And I realized that one of the things that is their major regrets in life is some have had it well and they've planned their life well, and some are saying, if I had known, I could have put these and these and these and these and these in place before I retire. Now I am retired, I cannot do it, it is too late. And what I learned from that is I need to start now. One actually said to me, he said, Jide, if you're 40 years old and you have not started planning for retirement, he said, it's too late. And I asked myself, wow. So I need to buckle up and I need to start running now. And this is what gave birth to this. And again, to honor, to appreciate the independence of Nigeria and to be a blessing to the Nigerian community, so that I'm not only getting these words of wisdom from my elderlies, from our fathers and mothers, so that we can share this knowledge. Every one of us can be better prepared. The Bible in the book of Psalm 90 verse 12 said, so teach us to number our days that we may incline our heart unto wisdom. And it's about planning. It's about numbering your days, counting your days, knowing fully whether if Jesus tarries, by the grace of God, will be 60, 70, 80, 90. If Jesus tarries as the Lord has given the grace. But it's not just good to be living. It's good that when at that stage, we are all living a quality life. And for us to live a quality life, we need to prepare. And that is why this platform is there, so that we can learn from our elders, so that we can learn from those who have gone ahead of us. They are still very instrumental and very important to us. So we are here today. We are here to learn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor. Thank you so much, Pastor. I think, Tony, you wanted to do the housekeeping rules a while ago.
That is correct. That is correct. And indeed, to also appreciate Pastor Jide for that short message, but impactful one indeed. And to, I can connect to an aspect of his message. Growing up, my parents says I would sometimes say to them, I'm going to visit my friend. Growing up in Nigeria and for sure being a village boy, I would always say, Mommy, Daddy, I'll be back. I want to go see my friend. But apparently, my friend I was going to see is like some 60-year-old, 70-year-old man or woman. but they're my friend, right? So those are like the kind of friends I kept. And I guess that inspired the kind of growth, I suggest, that has been part of me. So thank you, Pastor Jide, for letting us know the importance of connecting with our elders and listening and learning and sitting at their feet so that we can grow. So thank you for that. And just in the spirit of Nigerian independence, as Pastor mentioned or referenced, we also recognize that this community tonight is representing the Nigerian dynamics by way of interfaith and intercultural component, if you will. So as we've started the session with the Christian prayer, we do hope that there will be one or someone in the audience who will be happy and willing to help us close the session with a prayer in the Islamic way. So that way we bring it all together. So I do hope there is someone in the audience who will be willing to do that for us. As for housekeeping, it's always important when we not only turn off, when we turn on our cameras, just for the sake of seeing our beautiful and handsome faces, it helps us to know that there's nobody who is by the name iPhone or Galaxy or tablets. Because when you look at some of the names that we can see here, not all of us have our real names displayed. That's okay. Some of us are, matter of fact, abbreviation of our names. So we don't really know ourselves if our cameras are turned off. So we encourage folks to please turn on their camera so we can put faces to our names and ideally change those names from iPhone, tablets, and all those things to real names so that when we see each other in the street, we can say, oh, I recognize you from our virtual engagement. So that's one piece. We'll appreciate it if you do that. But we also know that the flip side to turning your camera on is then we zoom into your community. We zoom into your house. Then we are aware of what is going on around you. So we'll appreciate it if you can minimize the distractions that may be coming around. You know, it would be great if you could do that. It's going to be an event where we all share and learn. And I like that we mark that. We share and we learn. Sharing means that I do not occupy or dominate the entire airtime. So our hope tonight is when we have questions or we have insights, we will make it short and brief so that we can share airtime or space with others who may also be having burning questions. So we encourage folks to keep it simple and short when they have questions or if they have insights to share. The same will be that when we are not talking, after all, please feel free to mute your microphone. Help us to mute your mic. It's always the case that we forget to mute ourselves. And then maybe you're watching some news channel back home, or you're watching Telemundo, I don't know, whichever it is that folks are watching in the background, then you don't know when that's kind of like feeds into the session. So when you're done talking, please help mute your microphone. And in the event that you're trying to speak, but you forget to unmute yourself, we will do well to say, oh, you're on mute. And I think we're all familiar with that, with the era of pandemic. You hear a lot of, oh, you're on mute, because someone starts talking, but they forget to unmute themselves. So these are kind of the basic housekeeping that we will appreciate that we all work together with. And please make it a very, very interactive and engaging session. And I believe our speakers are hoping to learn from us as much as they are eager to share with us. Tosin.
Thank you so much, Tony. Yes, it should be as interactive as possible. And I'm sure people have guests, people on the line already have questions they want to ask. And one other thing we would like to add is that if you have your questions already, you can begin to drop them in the chat box. We'll appreciate that. And if you want to, when it's time for questioning, you want to unmute yourself and ask the questions, we'll also appreciate that too. So without further ado, I want to welcome again our guests. They have honored us by being here today, and we truly appreciate you. I want to especially welcome Madam Felicitas Santos Vargas. She actually simply goes by the name Faye. Yes, a round of applause for her. That's why we need to see our faces so that we know we're clapping. Awesome. Fantastic. And our second guest is Professor Femi Olatuboso. You're welcome, sir. And I can see Mommy there. Mommy, you're also welcome into our midst. Thank you. All right. So right about now, we're going to go into the conversation proper. And what Tony was talking about is early childhood days. I remember that recently my boss at work retired. And, you know, when we were asking him, what is the best thing about retirement? It's like the fact that I don't have to set the alarm to wake me up in the morning anymore. That's the best part for me. And we were like, oh, that is true, you know. But, you know, a wise man once said, retirement is not just about a case of not setting the alarm again, but it is a major life decision that all of us have to make. Whether you are in business or you are an employee, you will retire one day. I know in my field where I work now, I meet with a lot of business owners. And when you talk with them and you say, what's your plan for retirement? Say, oh, I'm never going to retire. This is my life. I'm going to do this. I'm like, okay, this is your life, but there will come a time when you'll be too weak to do it. That's your retirement time, you know. So every one of us will get to that time. And that's why we're all here today. So if admin can help us bring up Faye's bio. I would just, no, we're starting with Professor Latuboson. Sorry about that. Yes, it's Professor Latuboson first. So I'm going to start with, yes. So I'm going to read his bio and then welcome Prof to give us a speech. So the way it's going to go is the speakers will have between 10 to 15 minutes to just give us a background about themselves, their life before retirement, and what it's been like after retirement. And the same will go for the second guest. And then we can have our questions at the end of the day. So while they're talking, we have questions, please drop them in the chat box and we'll take it as they come in. All right, so let's go. Dr. Olatuboson is professor and past chair of the Department of Obstetrics, Gynecology and Reproductive Sciences, and past vice dean of the University of Saskatchewan College of Medicine. He received his MD from the University of Lagos, Nigeria in 1973 and completed residency training and oncology fellowships at the Royal College Hospital, Saskatchewan, Canada in 1981. Dr. Olatuboson served as a trustee for the Commonwealth Medical Trust and other international agencies. He is principal and co-principal investigator for several studies on ovarian follicular dynamics, perinatal medicine, and international women's health. Professor Olatuboson is married to one wife. As we can see, Mommy is sitting beside him. You're welcome, sir. The floor is open for you.
And thanks for the invitation. I hope you can all hear me. I'm going to spend approximately 10 minutes. And I haven't lectured for more than 40 years. You get tired of lecturing. You really want to listen and learn from your students. And the trick to being a professor is that if you haven't said what you have to say in the first 5 minutes of your talk, then you miss the boat because your students are now going to be looking at their Twitter accounts on their iPhones. So the trick is to keep it simple. So I'm going to try and keep the message simple so that at least at the end of this session, you will have asked yourself whether the time was worth spending here. And if the answer is yes, then I believe that my mission has been accomplished. So as most of the members of the audience are immigrants, particularly from Nigeria, I'm going to just share some of my experiences in first coming to Canada in the mid-70s to do my residency training, and then going back after the training to Nigeria and lecturing in university, and then moving at some point to Saudi Arabia, from where I came back to Saskatoon in 1992. So the first lesson here is that don't close the door on any opportunities that may come your way. When we were living in 1981, I thought that was the end of my stay in Canada, but lo and behold, about 10 years later, I came back. And again, as Jide said, it's important to start thinking of retirement before you turn 40. And if you are 40 and above, I will slightly disagree with him that all is not lost. And I'll show you some data that shows that all is not lost. It's just going to cost you a little bit more money. So in terms of retirement, the key aspect of this is to start thinking about what you're going to do well after you leave the workplace. And Judy and I have had so many interactions, and I was glad to see him quote Psalm 90. So we must have read a common book on retirement, which started out by quoting Psalm 90 verses 10 and 12. And the version that I read says, we can expect 80 years, maybe 70 years, maybe 80 if we're healthy. And even our best years bring trouble and sorrow. Suddenly, our time is up and we disappear. And verse 12 says, teach us to use wisely all the time we have. So basically, my understanding of this portion of the Bible is to spend time reflecting on life, both at the moment, as well as when the clock starts ticking down. Clearly, you can say this to a 25-year-old, they think you're talking rubbish. But I think the time to start thinking about life is not when you're 60 or 70. I think we all need to reflect on life in general because of the transient nature of life itself. And a wise man by name of Aristotle put it in a different light. It said that human life is like a log on fire, that if you pour water on it, it just snuffs it out, which refers to premature death. So we can believe that we will live here forever, but unfortunately, life is not like that. So we have to spend some time in reflection. And if you leave that log of fire alone without disturbing it, eventually it will burn itself out. So which means no matter how long we live, we're going to pass on one day. So my first message is to start thinking about retirement today. It could be 20 years old, you could be 30 or 50 or 60. I think it's better to start thinking about it sooner rather than later. And it was also mentioned earlier that Jide talked about his friends, and Tony also mentioned some of his friends being much older than him. I think that's a very good strategy. It's good to have friends that cut across all age groups. Some of my close friends who started as mentors but became very close friends were in their 70s when I was a resident. And we got so close to each other, and until I saw some of them pass away. You know, they were agile, very active people, but over the years, when you see the people close to you passing away, then it's time to start thinking more seriously about life. So that's another message. So now, when we came back to Canada in 1992, An American friend of mine mentioned this book to me. I don't know if you can all see it. It's perhaps the best book I ever read about financial planning in Canada, and particularly retirement planning. It's simply titled The Wealthy Barber. And it's full of words of wisdom put in a very hilarious and humorous way. And I would strongly recommend this book to every member of the audience. It's still in print, and it talks about the Canadian financial system. And it also talks about what you're going to do at retirement. So it's not just about dreaming about making a lot of money. I think retirement involves a lot of psychological preparation. That is one aspect that I found extremely challenging. And I attended every course that the university had to offer for retiring professors, even when I wasn't planning on retiring. I started as early as 10 years towards my retirement, going to those workshops, because it is extremely psychologically traumatic when you find that your status or your presumed status is no longer there. I remember my department head, when I was a resident, came to visit me when I was then department head. And my secretary kept him waiting. So I just happened to go through the door and I saw him sitting quietly there waiting. So Anna was asking my secretary, that used to be my boss. Go in the hallway, you see his picture there on the hallway. That was my boss when I was a resident. So the humble guy did not insist on going to see me because the door was locked. He just sat down quietly. So one thing we need to think about and prepare for is how we cope with the psychological impact of no longer having an office. The office will be your kitchen if your wife allows you to enter the place and do the dishes. And you have to find a way of doing those dishes joyfully. And someone said that happiness is not doing what you like, but liking what you do. So that is one message I took to heart very early in my life, that you could aspire to be in the highest office and find that it's meaningless. But if you enjoy your low-paying career and you save and actually put in your best and have fun doing it, you find yourself actually being filled with joy, because there's a big difference between being joyful and being happy. Happiness is just an emotion, it comes and goes. But once you are full of joy, you find yourself being at peace, even when you're dealing with challenges. The other key take-home messages that I want to give about retirement, this has to do with the financial aspect. Number one, save 10% of your income. People think it's difficult to achieve, but as you contribute your tithes to your church or mosque, also think about saving 10%. In Nigeria, we have a popular saying among the Yorubas that you don't save money for funerals. But I bet you it's better to have an emergency fund. Don't label it as a funeral expense. But we all have loved ones who are very old in Nigeria. And one single most important expense I've had to incur over the years is traveling back to Nigeria for funerals. In fact, in my many years of staying in Canada, I only traveled to Nigeria maybe a couple of times when I actually went on vacation. Other times were all for not so pleasant experiences like having to bury someone. And having an emergency fund is critical in addition to saving 10%. And it does not really matter how much you earn. You can save 10% because Revenue Canada is going to take anywhere between 20 and 45%. So try to save some fund. And unlike Nigeria, where nobody talks to you about retirement planning, the Canadian government actually forces you to plan towards retirement through vehicles such as RRSP, that if you don't contribute to it, you're just giving money away. And the other one is the tax-free savings account. And when I came to this country, I was quite surprised that the government will pretty much give you those incentives to save. And if all you have is your RRSP and tax-free saving account contribution, beginning from around age 30, and you will retire actually a very wealthy person. And finally, the only debt you should carry is your mortgage. I see people charging a lot of expenses on credit cards, and I think it's ridiculous. We all have to use credit cards, but no credit card company is going to make me pay an interest of $1, not to talk about 19%. So, and if you don't have an emergency fund, then you are left with having to put a lot of things on the credit card. So, as I said, mortgage should be the only debt you are carrying. And this is extremely important. I want everyone to pay attention to it. A study was done in 2021 to assess the average spending of a Canadian at retirement. Was done by the BMO Bank. And they found that at retirement, an average Canadian will need to have about $800,000 in savings or investments in order to be able to spend $32,000 per year. $32,000 per year is under $3,000 per month. So how do you get to $800,000 in order to be able to spend $32,000 per year? Okay, if you start at the age of 60, you will need to be saving $11,800 per month to be able to accumulate $800,000 by the time you retire at 65, which is approximately the average retirement age in Canada. If you start at age 55, you will need to be saving $5,000 per month. If you start at age 50, you will need to be saving $2,800 per month. At age 45, you need to be saving $1,800 per month. At age 40, $1,200 per month. At age 35, $840 per month. And at age 30, $500 per month. Someone used the analogy of if you start early, your savings to attain that $800,000 per month is like paying car loan. So the amount you need to be saving is what you pay on your car loan. But if you wait till age 60, you are pretty much paying 3 times your mortgage to be able to retire comfortably. So to round up, start early, read The Wealthy Barber by David Chilton. That's the name of the author. And it's very helpful. And then finally, save 10%, have an emergency fund, don't carry credit card loans, and of course, think about life after retirement when you don't longer have a title and you have to make your own phone calls, you don't have a secretary, and you have to be as humble as possible. The earlier you start with that mindset, you actually find your retirement to be extremely pleasurable. And the mundane tasks of life actually become more pleasurable. It's not just the money you may have accumulated, but having the opportunity to spend time with your grandchildren, change diapers. I never thought that changing diaper I would find pleasurable, but those are the things that will give you the joy in retirement. And you begin to value every moment of the day you have when you're still alive. You say, thank God I'm still on my feet. And those things will bring joy to you. So it's better for us to wait until those questions start coming in. So thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much, Prof. It's been quite an enlightening, informative, and shall I say, a reflection. More like, as your Bible will say, when the eyes is charged, you remove it, you put it in front of the eye like this, like, where do I start to make some changes now? So you have removed the ipu and you have shown it to our face, but that's all good. I appreciate the way you kind of brought it all back together by way of that wrap-up summary. Indeed, you're a professor par excellence, and indeed I would say a teacher, because only a teacher would give the lesson objectives, give the lesson, and give a recap. So thank you. We can take a lot of cue on that, and we do know that. Shall I say we imagine that some of us on this call are already burning with questions, or maybe what you almost would call a rebuttal. Like, Prof, I disagree with some of these things you are saying because some things are easier said than done, i.e. credit card, and a number of other things. Like, it's a new world, it's a new era, and I don't know if I can even save $100. let alone somebody will say kids are expensive. So by the time you look at all of these things and there's no grandma, grand auntie, anybody around helping, you recognize that before you know it, before the end of the month, you're already even waiting for, do I get a third or fourth job? So how do you save? But we'll get to all of that. And you said something in regards to happiness being liking what you do as opposed to doing what you like. That's a beautiful phrase right there, and I will keep that in my mind. But I also would say that that's all debatable. So we'll bring back those days when your student will put their hand up and engage you in conversation. We're going to bring that up this evening. But without further ado, so again, if folks have questions to ask, you're more than welcome to put them in the chat box. We'll appreciate that. And I must say this to Dr. Latubosun or Professor Latubosun. My wife and I have the habit of going to the RUH prior to delivery and just go and sample the whole area. Just walk around and see, okay, we'll go to like maybe a few days before the baby is ready to come. And on a particular birthing time, it's not to say we have a lot of them, but at a particular birthing time, we were walking around and her eye caught, he says, come, That's a Yoruba name. That is Olatubosun there. So we were very, very proud, very, very proud to see a name that we can recognize and identify with on the Hall of Fame at the RUH. And it was indeed an inspiration for us that how would we have known if such a person had changed their name, or if they have allowed themselves to be assimilated into, let me give a name that will be convenient for the community or society to pronounce. It would have just been some Smith that indeed is a Nigerian. So thank you for that way through which at least you've inspired my family. So I thought I should mention that. I never met you until now, but I've carried that as a pride. So thank you. So that said, I'm going to invite Madam Faye, as she's been invited or described. Felicitas Faye, for short, Santos Vargas, together with her mother, daughter, and 5 siblings, emigrated from the Philippines in 1981. Her sister, who came to Canada 6 years prior, sponsored them to join her here in Saskatoon. In the year 2018, Faye retired from the city of Saskatoon after 25 years of meritorious service. And after her retirement, as my own mother would say, I am retired, but I'm not tired. Faye decided to go back to work, and she was employed with the Saskatchewan Association of Immigrant Services. For 3 years, she worked there, SASHA for short, and I was privileged to work with Faye at the immigration sector. Faye finally decided to retire fully, we hope now, fully, knock on wood, like they say, in the year 2021. Her education and experiences, as well as her decades of volunteering, continue to inspire her to get involved in many community events. She and her husband, who still works for the Royal University Hospital, like spending time with family, especially with their 4 grandchildren. In spare time, if there is any, Faye enjoys going for walks, working on crafts. I have some of her crafts at home, and watching Korean dramas. There's a particular important piece of Faye's bio that's not here. Madam Faye is a black belter in Taekwondo. So don't mess with Faye, period. Over to you, Faye.
Thank you for that introduction, Antonio.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm truly honored to be invited to be one of your speakers for this event, and I thank you, Dawson, for connecting with me, and Pastor Judy Oyatuga for your kind words earlier, and our preceding speaker, Dr. Femi Olatunbosin. I hope I pronounced it correctly. It's such an honor to be included in your event. And unlike Professor Femi, I will be sharing with you my personal experience. And this is, I think being in Canada, we came actually in January 1st, 1981. So yeah, I think there was a blizzard at that time because we got stuck in Calgary. So anyway, it's a lot of stories. Being an immigrant for most of us who are here in Canada. And that's one of the things that I truly, it's very close to my heart. And that's why I'm very much involved with a lot of our community activities. Yeah. So like I said, I have my grandchildren. I have one who's in grade 10, one. Oh, I should maybe start from the oldest one. Odin is in grade 12, and then Nila is in grade 10. My nonstop gibbering granddaughter, Una, is almost 3. And then we just had the 4th grandson, the 4th grandchild, and he was born on September 7th. So, one thing about being a grandma, about being grandparents, and I agree with what Professor Femi had said about enjoying changing diapers for kids, and every little thing that they shared with you, our grandchildren. It's truly amazing. Being a grandparent, you almost think that, hey, why didn't I become a grandparent first? Because with grandchildren, you have the grandchildren brought to your place, and then they go home at the end of the day, or if they stay 1 or 2 days, they will go home to their parents. Okay, so I started. My experience is actually so when we first came in 1981. What we did was, because we were. Our first intention was to get a job right away. And so my sister, who was working in a garment factory at that time, that's where I worked. I worked with her for 2 years. So once I started working, once all of us started, or the 3 of us started working, then she stopped working. So she went to school. And so once I finished my grade 12, once after my 2 years, I decided that I'd go back. I'd go to school and finish my high school. I did finish my high school in the Philippines, but because of the grading system that you lose 2 years of your education. Now, of course, they changed that one to, like, the Philippines now has a 1 to 12 or K to 12. And so it's the same level of North American education system now. So anyway, I did some of the jobs that I worked at a hotel doing as a chambermaid. I worked as waitress. I worked in a nursing home, which I truly enjoyed. I never thought that I was going to enjoy that. I worked in the nursing home for 2 years and having connection with the elderly. So wherever you go, whatever field you are working at, you will find that the experiences that you gain from those fields or from that environment add to your improvement, add to your, enjoying life. Ever since I came in 1981, I was already involved in the folk fests, which is a cultural. I don't know if most of you. I hope you are all familiar with folk fest. This is a showcase of different cultures. So I did participate and became an executive. I held different executive positions in different organizations. The Filipino Canadian Association of Saskatchewan. I was president, secretary. All those different positions, and I became president of Folk Fests. I believe it was in 2010, and I also served in the board for some provincial levels of different organizations, like the Saskatchewan Intercultural Association, which used to be at that time was the Saskatoon Multicultural Council. The Saskatchewan Association of International Languages, which is we used to call it SOL, or the Saskatchewan Organization for Heritage Languages. And right now I'm still volunteering as coordinator of the Filipino Heritage School. I taught the heritage language, the Filipino language, for over 20 years, and has held now being the coordinator. And sometimes I do sub teaching whenever it's necessary. So I've been in that position for about 12 something years. So one thing about being in Canada, at that time, I think I felt that the competition for looking for a good job, you really have to compete and you have to have your education. So if you're like a high school graduate, I mean, there are jobs there. There are jobs out there that you'll be able to get, but really, what is your plan for the future? 5, 10 years later. So when I finished my business college, I was fortunate enough to get a job at the city of Saskatoon. And while at the city of Saskatoon, I really enjoyed it so much that I think it's something about being an immigrant. You are so proud about your culture. So you wish and you wanted to share it with people around you. I started when we used to always celebrate March 21st, which is the International Day for Elimination of Racial Discrimination. I was, for 2 years, I was designated, or I did the facilitator for compulsory training for all the city workers, for race relations. For my experience in the city, for 25 years, I was in customer service. So I've dealt with different people. I am very fortunate too that the city, just like any other organizations, offer a lot of training programs. So we take advantage of those training programs, and some are required classes. So those are really good. Why did I get back to work after my retirement? I think at that time I was looking for the structure. How you get up in the morning, and you have, this is what you need to do. You take the bus to go to City Hall and you go to the office. I'm always excited about being with people. I'm always excited about providing service. I was in the supervisory position in the customer service. I spent 11 years in the treasurer's office and 14 years in building standards. And of course, like when you go to City Hall, there's, people, you go for, if you need service, you go to City Hall and you ask. And it is just so nice for me, I think, too. My feeling is that I like people asking me questions. And and providing them the answers that they need. And you see people when they leave the place, they're satisfied that their answers, they get their answers from their questions, or they're satisfied with whatever inquiry they have. Some of the things that I wanted to share with you are my beliefs, my experiences, our connection to our culture. This cannot be stopped, but sometimes the bridge sometimes breaks with our connection to our motherland. But we have to reconnect, we have to rebuild the bridge, and that's really important. Before we went back to the Philippines, it was, I think, 18 years before I decided to go back, because we were all here. So there's really no reason for us to go home. And my brother who's in California right now, it took him 30 years before he decided to go back. And now that he's semi-retired, he's going back every year and for holidays. So it's really good. My mom came with us in Canada, and she passed in 2018, and she was 95 years old. So she, this being in Canada gave us good life, gave us a lot of opportunities for some of us who did not have the opportunity back home. The most important thing that we are thankful for being in this country is the peace that we have, that we are enjoying. I mean, maybe the odd times there are things that are happening around our environment, but generally, this is a good place. We're so blessed to be here. We're so blessed that we are able to share our culture. We're so blessed that we are able to learn other cultures. And, because learning other cultures, it's just like an iceberg. You see in the iceberg, you don't see anything that's below the water. But for you to be able to understand and learn more about that culture, you have to go beyond. You have to go below and you have to be interested. Paying respect. If you respect people, people will respect you back. That's my mom's motto. She says, as golden rule, what you want others to treat you, you have to treat others that way. So for me, be proud of our culture and take time to learn other cultures. What is your goal about retirement? I retired from the city. I was 60. And again, I just wanted to mention it again. The reason I went back was because I was looking for the structure. I want to be out there. I want to see the people. I'm a people person. I can talk it. And Anthony can probably, attest to how I am or that. But when my son, the younger, they just got married not very long ago. So now they have like a child who's 3 years old and a baby. And so I think it's timing. It's good timing that I'm able now to help them. And so that's one thing. That's one thing that I truly enjoy. For planning for retirement, we are lucky that the city of Saskatoon has what we call the superannuation plan. This is like similar to what the health region has, the SHEPP. So we have their superannuation where we contribute every paycheck, we contribute to this plan. And that's one thing I think that we are lucky, we're so blessed, because those organizations like the city of Saskatoon or even with SACIA, they look after their people, their employees. It's like to keep your employees, you have to have this incentives. You have to have this things that will be able to help them in the future. And with what Professor Femi had said earlier, with all the statistics that he had mentioned, this is depending on what you want to do after your retirement. When you're retired, are you planning to live lavishly? Are you planning to travel a lot? Are you planning to do some fine dining all the time? Or are you just simply enjoying being at home, not worrying about getting up early in the morning and beat the traffic? Or what I'm enjoying right now is being retired. You will find that you don't have enough time spending non-paying work. You'll find that, like for me, because I really enjoy doing volunteer. So I still volunteer for my community. I still volunteer in other organizations. It doesn't have to be the Filipino community. I volunteer at churches. I volunteer in my community association. So things like that. And you'll find that you really enjoy it, because knowing people and being in Saskatoon is really a beautiful place. It's not so big, it's not so small, just the right kind of people. When we first came here in 1981, you can go from the west to the east in 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's easier now. Yeah.
Mhm. I don't know how's my time, Tasha.
Yes,
but
you've actually We got a little bit above time, but thank you so much. It's interesting listening to you, but we need to like go into questions so that you can delve into it much more when we do that. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was wonderful listening to you. I particularly appreciated the part that you reminded us of not burning the bridge, trying to reconnect the bridge. You said you took time, it was intentional. You took time to connect back to your roots. Like even while you were here, you volunteered in so many cultural activities, taking you back to the Philippines. And once you were 18 years in Canada, you went back to the Philippines to connect to the root. And I think that's the very important thing that we almost learn here. Now we're here in Canada, we're building our careers and everything. And while we're thinking about retirement, we should think about Nigeria. And when Prof. Two was talking, he even said he had to, when he finished, he went back to Nigeria. So that's a fantastic thing that you mentioned there. And also giving back to the community. Once we're volunteering now, those might be the things that we will find very useful for us when we retire. Just relax. We have so many questions for you. So, and I'm sure people are burning with questions. So we're going to open the floor in a bit. I want to know if Tony has a question to start us with, or we just go. I know where we have a few questions in the chat box, so we could go into that, but I'll let Tony take it up from here.
Thank you so much, Osin, and thank you, Faye, for sharing your story with us. And it's great to know the journey that you've had. And now I know the reason why you came back to work. At least now I know. But and I can attest to your personality, to what you did for us, because as I mentioned, Faye and I worked together at a point in time in the immigration sector. And Faye was that person who we all would go to, and she keeps us in line. Faye developed a number of templates and tools. Faye is a wizard at Excel, and some of us who are, in fact, all of us who are younger than her, me in particular, is okay, how is she able to do this? You know, so again, this is someone who had worked, retired, came back to work, but she still had all her faculty working for her, to the extent that she's the one keeping things in check by way of tools, templates, resources, and I mean statistical templates, matter of fact, right? So then you begin to wonder, if I retire today, what do I have to bring back if someone were to come back of retirement, right? So we're talking about planning for retirement, but I think, what does that also mean for my intellectual capacity? How relevant would I still be at my age of retirement? So that's one piece too that I want to speak to. And Faye, you had talked on structure. I think now I get it, because for some folks, it's not so much that they're not enjoying, because you enjoy all those things that you do with the community, with your family, with your cultural society, but you also miss that structure, because that, and I think that's where a lot of us are hung up, right? Like, how do I go out again? How do I go back again into doing things? And was there any thing that held you back? I think when we get to questions, we will learn more. So thank you. And if we have questions in the audience, absolutely, we can take it. I have some, but it's not about me. It's about the audience.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we have a couple of questions already, and I'm just going to chat. We have the first question, and I think Dr. Latuposo will help us with this. So this person is asking about the Saskatchewan healthcare employees pension plan. She said, what is the relevance of that in time of retirement? Is it dependable? So she's saying, can we only depend on that, or do we still need to save heavily? I know that you had mentioned saving 10% of our earnings, and I mean, towards retirement. So she's asking, do we still need to really do that? Because I mean, the health sector really helps with the pension plan a lot. So you can help us with that, sir.
Okay, thank you for that question. It's a very good question. And my take is that if you have an employee pension plan, then you may not need to subscribe to that particular plan. But if you don't have an employee pension plan, for example, at the university, we have a faculty pension plan. And but those who are self-employed or contractors working in the healthcare system, I would suggest that having that SHEP, SHEPP, it's a very good plan, because ultimately you'll be having a different set of pots of money to draw from in retirement. The one that is guaranteed, it's your pension plan. So if you don't have any pension plan at all, then you have no option but rely on your RRSP and the TSFA. So my take is that that pension plan for healthcare workers will only add to other sources of income that you will need to draw on in retirement, in addition to any investments that you may have. But the benefit of a pension plan as compared to pure investments is that it's not as volatile as the stock markets are, which we have experienced in the past year or so. So it's a very good idea to enroll even before you retire. I'm not quite sure about your eligibility for that particular plan once you've retired. But if you're in the process of thinking about retiring, then it's a good idea to subscribe to that healthcare workers pension plan at this time.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that. And, you know, we have that great balance between yourself and Faye, the wealth of knowledge and insights that you bring to this conversation. While we talk about savings and all of that towards retirement, I feel it's also important to recognize that we don't want to spend that money or time alone, I hope. And there's another question that asks, how do we combat loneliness during retirement? I do hope that you all will agree, or if not all, most of us here will agree to attest to the fact that when you drive around food courts, you see a lot of seniors hanging out, sitting down, you know, maybe just spending their time together. Many perhaps are spouses doing like senior spouse hangout. I don't know if that's what it is, but maybe some are just individuals who are friends who just need to hang out. Fact remain that some telecommunication companies will attest that most seniors will call, not because they have issues with their phone or internet, just so they talk to someone, because they're just alone and lonely. But we come from cultures where we are intertwined into a sense of family unit, the synergy. And I can see here Prof and Mommy sitting together. Faye, in your bio, yourself and your husband do a lot of things together. So how do you encourage us, particularly those of us who are not at that age yet, but who unfortunately are getting too busy running the rat race of, you know, and either of you can go first. We are running the rat race, we are running after money. Spouses only come together at the dinner table, maybe even to just talk about work. We don't even have to talk as couple anymore. So when we are retired, there's no job anymore. When kids are all grown and gone, then what do? How do we learn to live with each other? So either of you can, and you are the example already for us.
Well, I think I'll go first. One of the things you have to deal with off the bat is how to adjust to your spouse again in terms of being under the same roof with him or her.
I see mommy smiling at that point.
24/7. because clearly that creates challenges. Somebody you just used to seeing for a few hours, now you have to be under the same roof. So one of the things you have to get used to is being an errand girl or an errand boy, because now he has to tell you to do this, do that. And I will respond, how did you cope when I wasn't there? That's beside the point. You are now there, so you have to deal with having too much of each other. On the flip side, I think you're right that retirement creates the potential for you being lonely, because even though you have two people living together, each person has over the years mapped out their own space. So it's a question of having an ongoing conversation. And because you can only play so much golf, and but it's a very important question. But what I've done personally is I read a lot. So I read books and philosophy, on theology, reading while my wife reads the Bible, and she can be buried in the Bible from morning till night. So I think we found a medium of people enjoying what they do as individuals, as well as doing collectively as a couple. But when people ask the question, what are you going to do now that you are retired? I think Phil said in that comment that to me, there's no shortage of what to do. It's a question of how you fashion your day. And clearly, we go on the treadmill and then we exercise. So those are things that keep your time occupied. Besides, going to the park, reading, playing sports. And so it depends on how you fashion it, but it's clearly something that people need to think about and work towards collectively with their partner as individuals.
Thank you so much, Prof. And Faye will come to you. And this is no joke. This is something I saw one day when I was at Tim Hortons buying coffee. Some seniors were hanging out, and one of them was wearing like a baseball hat. On his hat was the inscription, Chair of the Board. And by board, it was like B-O-R-E-D. So it was the chair of the board. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is awesome. So Faye, I know you're never bored. So
Thanks, Anthony. One of the reasons why we plan for retirement is you want to be able to enjoy your life where you're still healthy. So it's really important to be setting your priorities. And for those people who are, for you young people, for some of you who are younger, there's no such thing that you cannot teach an old dog a new trick. That's not true. Because everything that I did, I started late. And you can always learn things, new things every day. So you just have to make sure that you focus on it and you go for it and you follow up. So it's just not a matter of planning and thinking, you go for it. I think it's just straight, simple, and it's just, you just have to be enjoying what you do. It's not like the only difference about being retired and doing those things is you don't have to do it at a certain time. Like you don't have to do it right at 7 o'clock in the morning, this and that, because that one you can defer to be something that you can do late in the afternoon, or just other people procrastinate, mañana para la mañana, in the morning. But hey, that's not the end of the world, even if you decide to try to do it in the following day or something like that.
And I hope that includes being a black belt in karate now. Did you do that at a later time? Okay, Tosi, take it away.
Yes, thank you so much. And I like what Faye said. Like, that's one of the perks of retirement. Like, who cares? You don't have to do anything if you don't want to do it. And if you said you're going to do it in the morning and you didn't get to doing it in the morning, you can do it in the afternoon or in the evening. Who cares? It's your time. But at the same time, you have to plan to be able to enjoy that. Thank you so much. And thank you to Prof too. I like the fact that you said you have to be in the house with your partner and you now have to start doing what you weren't doing before. And you have to learn to cohabit. Before then, you probably have to spend hours apart. But now you're under the same roof. That's another, I don't know what word to call that. Would I say that another honeymoon together again in the house? And you just have to enjoy it. But then how do you enjoy it? I believe that it starts from now. Now that you're still working and you have active life, then you must have that very close relationship now, such that when you retire, it doesn't become chaotic. Thank you so much. I think we have a couple of more questions, or I think this is a comment. I'll just read it in a bit and see if there's a question there. So someone says starting a new small business, a new business after retirement has led some people to early grave, especially where this writer comes from. And I think that's true because, I mean, if you, well, Faye had said you can start anything at any time, but if you are hoping to do business after retirement, you better start it small while you're still in active service, so that, I mean, there's some form of income coming from somewhere else. So let's go on. So Prof, from your experience in Canada, what do you think about doing a small business to get engaged, to also manage loneliness when your spouse isn't around, and to earn some dollars? So what this person is saying is this: from your experience now, you're retired now, do you think, okay, will it be nice to start a small business by the side so that you can earn more money during retirement? What's your experience, sir? You're muted, sir.
Okay, I'll just share my experience briefly with you. I think you're right in the sense that the type of business you go into, again, should be something that you are familiar with, and also to start small. I had some rental properties before I retired, which I took some time to manage along with my wife. Well, I clearly would not recommend someone to start dealing with tenants at retirement, because it's very challenging, and you have to fix a lot of things. So I finally give that up. So my advice would be, do something that you actually find enjoyable and doesn't come with a lot of hassles, because you really don't want to spend your time chasing plumbers to fix sinks and all that, and dealing with difficult tenants who will wreck your property and move on. So start that small scale business before you retire, and after retirement, keep it on a small scale to start with. And if you're fortunate and it grows, then so be it. Well, that gives you the time to be out of the house doing something. So it's a very good idea to be an employer of labor and start your own business in retirement.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. I'm not sure if Faye has something to add on to that, but before we go to Faye, there's a question that I think in part may have been answered, but for sure, we may still share it in case there's some new insight that anyone might want to share. And the question is asking that outside of financial management, what other aspects of life does the person need to focus on for retirement? And the question also leads to ask, what is spousal relationship like after retirement? In a way, Prof, I think you had given us a foretaste of that, just looking at you and Mommy here on this call. And I'm moving away from Prof and Mommy now to the boy and the girl. you use that term, and I'm borrowing it respectfully, that even when folks are now retired, they should still be the boy and the girl that fell in love years ago. And I think only then can that moment together be a beautiful relationship. See, the prof is trying to show, yeah, that's the girl. So I wondered if there's any, and you've talked on the financial part, Faye has talked about the fun and the joy of finding the time. So I don't know if either of you, if Mommy, matter of fact, has something to add on, particularly in this regard as to spousal relationship after retirement, etc.
Well, thank you for having me. Relating to each other after retirement takes another style of communication. Like my husband said before that he will be at work and I will be at home. The time spent together was less. But in retirement, to have yourself, the two of you together 24 hours and 7 days, 24/7. It's a time that we want to spend quality time together. And we try to do that, especially on his own side. He's more upfront. I'm a little withdrawn, but we still make time for each other. And,
Well, I think Tony started on the right track, that you practice before retirement, so that when you are still in the pre-retirement phase, get to know each other, because it's challenging. In my experience, it's not an easy thing dealing with each other. You are pretty much on each other's space. And so the sooner you get used to that before retiring, the better, particularly when your kids are out of the house. Because over the years, when you're a young couple, you spend part of the time, raising kids, and which really takes away your ability to actually know each other closely. And then when you are left with two of you, you almost have to go through a process of relearning the person you are in love with before you got married. Because raising kids actually creates it's a joy to raise kids, but it takes away from two people knowing each other the way they did before they got married. So which means you have to relearn that process about how to reconnect with each other. And but it's an ongoing process that every couple needs to work on. And there's no way of sugarcoating it. That's just the way life is. But once you find that rhythm, then you actually begin to enjoy each other's company, as compared to perceiving the other person as, encroaching on your own space.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I don't know if Faye has something to add to that, but she did drop a comment here about, someone had asked a question about starting a business in retirement. And just like Prof also had said that we should, start small now, whatever we want to do, so that you are used to it before you now go fully into it after retirement. So she has added here that Even after retirement, there are organizations you can actually approach to get advice from. So say for instance, because honestly, the reason why we're here is to learn. So there might be people who are already very close to retirement here, and they're thinking, oh, okay, I didn't start a business before now, and I'm hoping to start one when I retire. It doesn't mean it's too late for me. So she's trying to let us know here that there are organizations in Canada that we can approach, and they can take us through the process, and they can also guide us too. And I know there are financial institutions too that you can also approach, and they have mentors. They have mentors who will work with you to help you on that journey. Fantastic. Yeah, so we have a few more questions here. I know that we have dealt with the financial aspect. Prof had told us that there are vehicles that the government of Canada has put in place for us to start saving towards our retirement. We can't overemphasize that. Saving towards retirement is very important, because ask anybody today, how much do you think it will take you to retire? Nobody knows. Is it $1 million? Is it $2 million? You never can tell. But saving is the right way to go. And also, I believe staying close to your financial planners, they will guide you and give you the right figures to work with as you go along. So the question I would want to ask at this point is, I'll direct it to Faith. So now that you're retired, are there things that, or are there steps you think that you should have done better? Or are there decisions that you should have taken before retirement? Or would you say I don't want to use the word regret, but I'd say, are there things that you think you should have done better or taken a better decision before retiring? And that will also go for Prof too, when she's done.
I think it's really important to do your research. If you are qualified to retire, and what's the benefits that you're going to get, are you okay to live with the amount of money that you're going to be getting, or do you need more? Or if you put in an extra 1, 2, 3 years, that will increase your pension plan. And so it's just a matter of doing your research and getting to know. You can get the people from your pension plan, from your HR department. They'll be able to provide you with that information, but you have to know where you're going. Because I mean, the reason why I went back to work is not the money, it's because I was looking for the structure, I was looking for the people, I was looking for to be with other people. But financially, if that's what you wanted to know, you are we're most welcome to get in touch with financial advisor, or from your work, if you have a pension plan, they will provide you with that information. They're really good with that. And I did, in my experience, my HR staff, my HR person at Citi was able to provide me with answering my questions.
Thank you so much. So you did a lot of research before you retired, but was there anything that you think you missed before you retired?
I'm happy. I don't think so.
Fantastic.
Even if there are things that you wish that you wanted to do first before you retired, there's no reason for crying over spilled milk. It's done.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of what can you do. For example, what can you do to change this situation? What can you do to advance into doing something like this? Or what can you do to make things the way you wanted it to be? You may not be able to reach the 100%, but if you try to do, and if you try, you can reach closer to your goal.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I like that. There's no point crying over spilled milk. Okay, I didn't do it. What can I do now? Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll go to Prof.
It's a very good question. And the way I look at it is that you always will question your own judgment about the timing of your retirement. I think most people go through it. It's been well published that there is always a question of, did I retire too early? Should I be classified as a regret? There is no clear answer to that. But so if you find yourself asking that question of yourself, it's not a bad thing. Particularly when in medicine, when I see some of my colleagues who are still, some of whom are older than myself, still going to the operating room, still delivering babies, the question will crop up in my mind from time to time. Did I pack it in too soon? But before I retired, I made sure I was not going to, first of all, as Faye said, I spent the 10 years prior to my retirement reading a lot of books and attending all those workshops for retiring. The workshops were actually meant for those who are retiring, but I enrolled in those workshops every year for about 10 years, just to know that once I said I'm done, I wanted to be sure that it was final. And in medicine, as in some other profession, as a safeguard that I never went back, I canceled my malpractice insurance, gave up my license to practice. So even if I wanted to go back, I would have had to go through that whole process. But it crosses people's mind from time to time. So that, but once you resolve that this is it, then most people will be happy with staying retired. Not to say that if you go back on a part-time basis, which is actually recommended for some people who, because the social aspect of work cannot be underestimated. The workplace is a place for socializing in addition to just earning an income. Over the years, you develop that network of colleagues that are almost like a second family to you. So, but once you're retired, you no longer get to see them. They say after 5 years, nobody will even know that you ever worked there. So I think once you have made your peace with that, I think it's a good thing. Just a quick comment about starting your own business. My wife's very close friend, who is from Ghana, made a comment once that there is no petty business in Canada. So and she was referring to the fact that you either start a business that you've done market research on before you start that business, and you've done your homework, because if you just go into the business that you are not experienced in, it's bound to fail, particularly in a highly competitive Canadian environment. So start well, but do your research before you spend your retirement, your pension income, setting up a business.
Thank you so much, Prof. and Faye and Mommy for sure for your insight. Likewise, we're gradually getting to the end of our engagement. We know 5 hours would not even be enough for sessions such as this, which is why it's always good to, I would want to suggest or assume, matter of fact, propose that this is just a hello and not a goodbye of this kind of, if I have the consent of the audience, I would say from my mouth to the ears of the convener, that this becomes more of an annual or series, as the case may be. But another question that I consider important, Doctor, you've talked about, you yourself too, Faye, I've touched on aspect of folks who have had paid job by way of being employed, either as a medical doctor, as an employee of the city. There's a cap to when perhaps you may retire because of the structure of where you work. Someone is asking, what about those who are purely self-employed. They are doing it for themselves. They're not under any structure by way of by 65 or whatever, you must retire. So they're like, so what strategies or options would you recommend for someone who may be self-employed? And as if you're friends with the farmers in the using Saskatchewan example, I think in this era, most farmers are struggling to have their own kids being interested in continuing on in the farming industry, because now almost everyone is leaving the farm and wanting to go to the city and do all the big work. So you find farmers falling off the combine and all of that and breaking their back because there's no one helping on the farm. So what would you recommend for someone who may be self-employed? How do they get to that point of retiring?
Yeah, I think it's a very valid question, because for that particular type of individual, there will be no employee pension plan. This person has been self-employed over the years. And but in Canada, there is an individual pension plan, which is also mentioned in that book, The Wealthy Barber. So it's better if you start creating your own pension plan at the time that you have set up your business, so that you have something to look, you have that particular pot of money to rely on in retirement. The benefit of setting that up is that you can have it some tax savings through it. So having your own individual pension plan, it's very important. And one thing that it's important that I forgot to mention is to be sure that you have all the documentation that the government of Canada will require to make you eligible for the government pension plans at retirement, specifically the Canada pension plan and the old age security plan. The mistake we made was that I'm not somebody who keeps documents for a long time. So all my Nigerian passports, as soon as they expire, I just shred them. But when it came time to apply for the old age security, the government requires that you document the times that you've been in and out of Canada, which is added together to calculate how much of the old age security payment you'll be entitled to. It's not a lot of money, but some people, it will actually add up, because the two key contributions of government towards your retirement will be the Canada pension plan and the old age security payment plan. So both of them require you to document the times you have spent in Canada cumulatively over the years. Because once you've been out, even when you go on holidays for anywhere more than 2 months, you have to be able to account for that. So my advice is keep all your expired passports, because that will be the evidence you need to present to be able to claim some of those government payments, which are which are taxed, but at least you can get some of the benefits from the government for living in Canada for so many years.
Thank you so much, Prof. That's a good insight to looking ahead towards retirement, because I didn't even know government will ask about the times you've been out of the country and try to accumulate that towards the CPP and the OAP. So thank you so much for bringing that up. We have quite a few more questions coming in, and please keep the questions coming. We'll try and we'll try to attempt to answer everything, but if we can't, at the end of the time, we can always share it with our guests, and they'll give us answers to it. So let me quickly go to this, and I will have I think I'll have Faye answer this question. So this person, this is Mr. Oyefuga, is saying that at old age, senior seems to have lots of money to spend, but lesser energy for it. But is that I'm feeling it. Okay, all right. So lots of money to spend and less energy for that. Well, I believe that that will come if we have planned well for it. Then we have lots of money to spend. But they said because of old age, there's less energy. So he said there's a syndrome of earn and spend it now. So he wants to know what's your advice on that. Is that a good thing? Like, okay, you're earning your money, you're spending it now versus keeping it till old age. And I'm going to tie that to something I heard from someone before. The person said, if you're planning to do a lot of trips with your spouse when you retire, you better start doing it now. Start doing it now and get used to it, because when you retire, you probably will not be able to do that. So what's your take on that?
You saying you may not go on that boat cruise?
you may keep postponing it if you don't do it now.
Oh no.
Well, I did mention earlier, depending on what's your goal when you retire, do you wanted to spend it traveling? And one thing that we cannot plan is if we're going to be healthy enough to be able to do, the traveling and all those things that we wanted to do when we retire. So it's one of the reasons why some people retire early, especially those who can retire early, like some of their pension plans allow them to do that. If you don't have the energy and you have the money to spend, I mean, what is it, something to do with your health, or is it just you don't have you don't feel like doing it? I don't know what context it is, but spending the money right now, I mean, while you have it, what's your plan for the future? Are you taking into consideration your children? Are you taking into consideration that if you become sick, or if that time comes that your children or your relatives are not able to take care of you, do you know that you have to be in a care home, that you have to spend money? And going and care home, it will cost an arm and a leg. That's what I hear from those who are in care home. So it's your choice. And again, the only thing that we cannot control here is our health.
Thank you so much, Faye. You just took me back to growing up, and many of us will know what I mean when I say far light. Somewhere in the far light in our house or by the entrance of the door, there's always something they write. No condition is permanent. And some we have. I'll try and translate it into English. It's hard, but I will try. It's like, come in and sit down. God knows what you are thinking. So they already have that before you enter, like, just come and sit down, but God knows your thought towards us in this house. So what you are telling us is you can never know what your tomorrow brings. And since we don't know what tomorrow brings, we also don't want to be in quick anticipation and blow it all today. What if we are now of good energy? At old age, but then we're already broke, right? And of course, the kids too. That's a great one. Now, there is another question here that I consider very important, and I think either yourself or Dr. Prof can answer that. The question says, health insurance in retirement, health benefits from employers are all lost in retirement. How does one plan for that? So health insurance, health benefits from employers are gone once one retires. So how do you plan to take care of those insurance or extended insurance benefits?
That's a very beautiful question, because the fact of the matter is, if you are employed, all your health benefits will cease at retirement. The university had a pretty good health plan for all faculty, which I enjoyed for many years. And but we had to buy our own health insurance beginning the day after I started my retirement in January 2017. So it's a critical point. And to buttress that point, I will make a point regarding to the question of do you spend your money when you can, and what do you do? I don't want to bore you with statistics, but there's a beautiful article that states your 60s are the best years of your life. And when you look at the data, it clearly shows that our 60s should not be wasted. You should at least spend your 60s enjoying life, because when you look at the statistics for Canadians, half of those who are over 70 are dealing with some kind of health issue or the other. And mobility becomes an issue when you are over 80. And there's a joke that if you turn 90, you're just happy to be able to find your way back home when you go out on a stroll. So it's important to have a balance between spending money when you are still active and you can enjoy it, but don't forget that health is important. And as beautiful as the Canadian healthcare system is, you're not going to be covered for a lot of expenses, which will begin to accumulate in the older years, including the prescription plan. So hopefully there's a talk about having a government sponsored prescription plan, because you will need medications and they are not cheap. And so it's important to remember that you may need to take your own health insurance, and no matter how modest it may be, but it's going to be an out-of-pocket expense that no longer will be covered by an employer. There is a question about the role of a financial planner. My advice is always to find somebody who can fulfill that role, because making financial decisions does not really depend on how much money you have. The older people are known to be notoriously susceptible to scammers. So it's important to find somebody who can play a role as a financial planner. And ideally, there are so many financial planners that are available. And the cost of having those people, I think, is worth every dollar you spend on that. And there are some studies that show that those who are guided by financial planners are better off at retirement as compared to those who put their money under their pillows.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you so much, Faith. It's been a wonderful evening, so much insight into your experience before retirement and even now that you are retired. We have a few more questions, but like I said, we probably will not be able to take everything. But this question is very important. And with the few minutes we have, I wanted to either of you to touch on it and tell us your take on it. So, as an immigrant, which is better, to retire in Canada or to retire back home? I know the two of you are here, so we'd like to know your take on it, because a lot of people are saying, you know what, when I'm retired, I want to go back home. And you had told us, Faye, that we should not burn the bridge. We should have that connection now before retirement. So what's your take? What's your take?
Would you believe that I never appreciated my country, the Philippines, when I was still there before coming to Canada. But when I go there to visit, then that I really appreciate it. Now, retirement in Canada or retirement in the Philippines, personally, it will be here because all my family is here. We don't have immediate family in the Philippines anymore. So, and all of us are here. We used to be here all in Saskatoon. Two of my siblings moved to California. So yeah, we can go between California when it's cold in here or, but still here. We have nice cold winters, but the people here have warm hearts. So it's here.
And
Yeah,
Mama,
I share that sentiment, and clearly Canada is home. This is a difficult question for people of African descent to address, because we have so much fundamental attachment to our countries in Africa that saying goodbye on a finality basis is difficult. Well, I'll give you a quick example. In 2000, since we retired, we've been spending the cold winter months in Texas. And so if you can spend January to March outside of Saskatoon, I don't see any difference between anywhere in the world you choose to retire. So getting away is critical. That come COVID in 2000, we were stuck in Texas. And I said that was the fastest $1,000 I ever spent to reschedule my flight or our flights to get back to Canada as soon as possible, because you don't want to be retired in a country where the healthcare system has challenges as compared to the Canadian healthcare system. So in my opinion, if the only hardcore benefit that I derive from retiring fully in Canada is the opportunity to have the healthcare system take care of me and my wife, I think that's critically important, because as good as the US healthcare system is, you don't want to be stuck there in retirement, because your retirement portfolio is going to be exhausted either on healthcare insurance or healthcare expenses. So in my opinion, the way we've chosen where we retire was driven primarily by healthcare consideration. Knowing that we can always travel anytime we choose to, and we can always visit Nigeria whenever we choose to.
oh, well, who would have thought that 2 hours will roll by, so quickly? We are grateful to both our presenters for the great insight they've shared with us, the balance, the cross-cultural, and I would say cross-professional lens with which they've shared insights with us. And just to give a little bit of a recap on that, coming from the perspective of what is retirement going to be like by way of the reality, it will dawn on us. As the saying goes, the only constant is change. So if we live to a certain age, it is a fact that we will have to take the back bench at some point in time. And that calls for, as Prof put it, humility. Many of us now are we're sitting in our thrones, more or less, and thinking that the position we have will remain forever. Guess what? No. And he journeyed with us into the reality of everything being transient in nature. Some were there before us. He told us about his own, shall I say, supervisor, who eventually had to sit and wait for him. That's humility personified. Someone else might have just knocked the door. Did you know I taught him? Open the door and let me in, right? Faye connected us to the importance of not forgetting who we are and where we're from, and the fun that we attach ourselves to in retirement, many will withdraw from when we were young and agile. So if you're not volunteering, if you're not doing anything in the community now, as the Latin expression says, nemo dat quod non habet. You cannot give what you don't have. So if you want to do more when you are retired, you better start now. That includes financial education and the literacy, if you will. Some indeed debatable. I still hold Prof on that one, the credit card piece, which we will discuss at a later time. But I agree with you that we must have financial education. We must be aware and spend what we have, especially knowing where we've come from. But again, I would argue further that should we be able to have a decent, fulfilling job, maybe some things are possible, but even within the means, as the saying goes, I want to switch it from cut your coat according to your size. I want to say perhaps Prof is telling us we should cut our coat according to our cloth. So if my size is this large, but my cloth can only give me filler, then I should just make filler and not plan to just get something bigger than what I can have. So understanding that as a couple, for those of us on this call who have been blessed with those, and those who of course will be blessed with partner, as the case may be friends with your partner now, because God keeping you alive together, you need that friendship at that later time. And you know, there's a lot going on when you hear families breaking apart because kids have now grown and they've left home. Now couples don't know how to relate with each other anymore because everything has been centered around my kids, but not my spouse and my kids. So that's another great one there for us to learn, to recognize that having extended plan for health benefit will be an important component of our adult or senior life, because all these things will be discontinued by the time we stop working for employer. Again, having the funds to take care of that, very important. Shall I start a business when I am retired? Why not? But do my research and do it right so that I'm not dabbling into something that will not only expose me to scam, but I may also go bankrupt quickly because I don't know what I want to do, as the case may be. And finally, on an important note, wherever you retire to is your choice, but make that choice based on need versus want. And I think Prof helped us understand the need that has influenced the decision he and his spouse are taking, and Faye recognizing that his immediate family are all here. So what's going to be your reason to determining where you will retire? That's on you, that's on me. And finally, we say, thank you for the opportunity, Pastor Oyetuga, to be a part of this session, and to Tosin, the co-anchor. You know, growing up back in the day, we are always eager to grow beard. I think some young men or men on the call may be a testimony to that. We understand that if you use spirits, they call it spirits. We put spirits on our beard. They say spirits will bring beard out quickly. So we're always rubbing spirits. Now we have beard and they are all turning white. Now we want to shave it off. We want to stay young. We're now realizing from this session that actually growing up is a scam. I think that's the final point. Growing up is a scam. So if there's a way, Doc, that we can revert to being 5 and 6 and being taken care of, please tell us. I want to learn that art. So I passed it on to anyone, as we had inquired earlier. Should there be someone on the call who will be able to bring prayers, unless Pastor has a closing remark? If someone has it can give us prayer in Islamic way, or any other way, we will appreciate that, so that we will bring all our faith journey, the intersectionality between what makes us who we are as a people and as Nigerians to bear. So if there's someone who wants to do that, we'll appreciate it. Otherwise, Pastor Yutuga, I don't know if you have any closing comment.
Thank you so much, Anthony Olushola, and thank you, Sister Tosin. It's been an awesome time. I want to quickly say this before I ask the Vice President of NCAS Brother Fred, I think he's online right now, to just do a vote of thanks, Brother Fred Solomon. But before we go, this is my little token in all of this. For every one of us, I want to encourage all of us that are Nigerians or that are immigrants, let's take care of our elderly ones. Let's not make them feel they are no longer relevant. When we have programs, let's have a section of our programs that caters for the elderly. Like I saw, we have the Nigerian Independence Day yesterday, which was an awesome, awesome thing. I would have loved to see a section or a table that is designated for the elders, for the seniors, so that they can come together, they can feel important. I hope we can learn from this, because they are still very important people in our life. They are still people who can impact us. Even though they are not in their office, like Professor said, but you see, when Professor came out of his office and saw his supervisor sitting down waiting for him, he had to mention it to the secretary that, don't you know who this person is? Now give him that attention, give him that privilege. And I think, thank God that those of us that are Africans, we are people that love and respect our seniors. Our seniors are a very important part of our life, and we should take care of them. So please, I'm encouraging us, whether the Yoruba, the Igbo community, or the NCAS community program, let's have a session for our seniors. Let's celebrate them always, because we will get there. And if we don't celebrate them now, our children will see the way we treat them, and they will treat us worse when we get there. So let's know that. Sister Faye, Grandma Faye, thank you so much. We thank God for you. My dad, my mom, you know how important you are. Professor and Mommy Olatubosun, the Lord has used this so much for me. You are my mentor in the city, and I've learned so much from you. I'm proud to say I am your son. Thank you so much for being there. Thank you. And Brother Fred, if you're there, the Vice President of NCAS, can you give the vote of thanks? And if we have a Muslim in the house, to close us in prayer. Is there any NCAS executive that can give us the vote of thanks?
Yes, sir. On behalf of the NCAS, I would like to say a very big thank you to Professor Olatubosun for coming this evening to come and educate us on the necessary plans we need to make for our retirement. And I would like to say a big thank you to Atefe. Thank you for sparing your time to come on this program and tell us about your experience with your retirement. We appreciate every one of you. Thank you so much, Prof. And thank you, Atefe. And thank you to everyone that joined this Zoom meeting to learn. We all agree that we have really learned about how to plan towards our retirement. Some of those questions that I had too were also answered. And I would like to say a big thank you to Pastor Jide for organizing this program and allowing us to, be part of it too, as members of the NCAS. To everyone, I say a very big thank you and good night. I hope everyone will have a lovely week this week. Thank you so much.
So a Christian started us up in prayer. Can we have a Muslim to please round us up in prayer? If there is none, can we pray? Thank you, excellent Jehovah, for bringing us to the end of this seminar and discourse. Thank you for the live and glorious retirement that our speakers are enjoying. Thank you for the knowledge we have gathered at this session. Thank you because we have learned, and we pray the grace to put what we have learned to action, you grant unto us in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you, Lord, for everyone who have spent time to be here today. Father, I pray that grace to live a quality life even after retirement, we all receive in Jesus' name. All glory go to you, O Lord, for in Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Thank you all. Let's put our hands together for every one of us on this line. We love you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being part of these. We love you all.
Bye.